They hear him. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier.
Hey, what's up with it, boxing community? It's your boy, Hot Boxing Minute, special emergency broadcast. I just made a video yesterday. Normally, I like to give at least a few days for my videos to marinate before I make another one, but some big news just hit the lines. Terrence Bud Crawford will not be fighting Errol Spence in the foreseeable future. No, folks. Mike Coppinger broke the story. Terrence Crawford is going to be fighting David Avanesyan. The contract is signed for a welterweight title fight on December 10th in Omaha, Nebraska, on a streaming service called BLK Prime for $39.95. I went and checked out BLK Prime real quick. It looks like a shady small underground website. I don't know what the hell is going on with the state of boxing at the moment, folks. The comment sections in the online boxing world have all gone up to shit. Everything's lit up. People are disappointed. People are pissed. Everyone's pointing fingers. People were already pointing fingers at Al Heyman in the PBC. Me, you guys, I've never been one to ride waves of fanaticism. I don't really understand picking teams in this sport. Oh, I'm going to ride with the Matchroom clique or the Golden Boy clique or the PBC team and Al Heyman or Frank Warren or whatever have you name people decide to idol worship in this boxing game. I look at all promoters and their promotional platforms and their staff behind them as a bunch of con artists. That's not to diss them, but in that way, I don't pick teams and I don't get emotional about, oh, it's all Al Heyman's fault or, oh, it's all Terrence Bud Crawford's advisor's fault. Anyways, we're not going to be getting Spence versus Crawford in. It is a scarlet letter on the sport of boxing. It is something that we all are going to be forced to have to carry as boxing fans because there is no one singular person to blame for the state of where boxing is. The boxing promoters, the people that run boxing, and boxing fans are equally culpable for boxing being where it's at right now. The promoters and all those shysters that call the shots and dictate pay-per-view prices, gate prices, ticket prices at events, they're just as guilty as boxing fans for tolerating that. They're just as guilty as boxing fans for paying for these outrageous pay-per-views every month or two from different platforms. It's outrageous the kind of money I spend on pay-per-view. I have been a boxing fan for years, buying merch, going to events. I'm a fixture in my city's amateur scene. I'm a known photographer. I help so many amateur and professional fighters in my own city make video content and photography content for their social media so that they can help market themselves. And me, I'm at a loss for words right now at boxing. I feel really, really just betrayed. And I know normally I don't get emotional, and to be honest, I'm pretty indifferent about a lot of things when it comes to boxing because if you're going to be a fan of this awesome sport, you got to have a thick shell for it. This is not a sport for the weak. This is a sport, and that's part of the reason why I love the sport so much. It's only meant for the tough, and even the tough fans got to hang in there. UFC fans are obviously going to have a field day with this, as they always do anytime there's a perceived lacking in the boxing department. And of course, I made a video announcing the whole move of Terrence Crawford to fight David Avanesyan. But mind you, David Avanesyan is a solid fighter, you guys. They call him the Euro Killer. He has smashed all of the top prospects out there in Europe, and he's got some awesome wins. He beat Kermit Lejaraga, I think that's his first name, who is the current European welterweight champion, or he just recently lost his European welterweight title. But, you know, he beat Lejaraga twice. He knocked out Josh Kelly. He lost to Kavalauskas, Mean Machine. So boxing is in such a weird state right now. Boxing is basically in a mood for attacking people's leftovers. We just had Caleb Plant knock out David Benavidez's leftovers with Anthony Durrell. Now David Benavidez is going to fight Jose Uzcategui. That's Caleb Plant's leftovers. And now we got Terrence Bud Crawford, who's setting up to fight his own leftovers. Because Mean Machine Kavalauskas knocked out David Avanesyan, and now Bud Crawford's going to be fighting David Avanesyan on December 10th out there in his home state of Nebraska. I don't even know what to say, y'all. This shit is fucking ridiculous. For reals. But anyways, just want to let you know how the news is breaking down. There's some interesting things that could turn about from this one. Now, one interesting thing I wanted to quote is Rick Mirrigan. Now, Rick Mirrigan is a fight manager who's got a slew of really top-notch fighters under his umbrella. He posted this. Rick Mirrigan said that whoever is promoting the Crawford fight is going to lose $8 million for the rights to the Spence fight late, but next year will hopefully make back $16 million. It's a high-stakes gambling move. I don't know if this is true or not. So to let you guys know, I don't really care about the stuff that really goes on behind closed doors when it comes to boxing and the negotiations. So I don't pick a side. They're all guilty as far as I'm concerned. And the less I know, the more content I'm going to be as a boxing fan. But what Rick Mirrigan says really does make a lot of sense if you think about it. The problem with Spence and Bud was that the funding was not there. Whether or not hardcore boxing fans want to admit it, Errol Spence Jr. and Terrence Bud Crawford are not commercially viable like that. They are only appealing to hardcore boxing fans. They do not have the same brand name, face recognition that fighters like Tank Davis have, that fighters like Ryan Garcia have, that fighters like Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua have. They just don't. We live in a whole odd, upside-down world of boxing social media where fighters like Rolly Romero get more attention from mainstream boxing fans than, say, Terrence Bud Crawford or Errol Spence Jr. So the funding was always going to be one of the fundamental issues. You got Errol Spence Jr. and Bud Crawford used to making an exorbitant amount of money per fight, and there really just isn't the kind of money there to give them the kind of money I think both of them really want for this fight. In the negotiations and the build-up, Bud Crawford already took the lesser B-side pay rate of not getting any money up front. And he was only going to get paid off the back end, the money from the pay-per-view and the gate, which is insane. But anyways, what Rick Mirrigan is saying is basically that the funding was the issue all along with Spence and Crawford. And they probably got an outside investor. I don't know if that's the potential. It could have been money from Al Heyman. Could have been money from Floyd. Actually, it's from neither of them because it's a Terrence Crawford fight. And Terrence Crawford is independent. But it's going to be on BLK. It's going to be streamed on BLK. I've never even heard of that site. Anyways, technically speaking, they found an investor to put up money for Terrence Crawford versus David Avanesyan. Terrence Crawford released a statement, or Mike Coppinger said something to the effect of Terrence Crawford is going to make 8 figures, so no less than $10 million. Which I don't even believe that number to begin with. But in theory, if it is $8 million or $10 million he's supposed to get paid for this fight, where in the hell is he going to get that kind of money to fight David Avanesyan here in the States? Now, he can sell out Omaha, which he likely will, and that maybe at best is $1 to $2 million. Probably not $2 million if he actually wants to sell it out. They love him in Omaha, but gates really don't make that much, especially if you're talking about an out-of-the-spot location like the arena out there in Omaha. And then they've got to pay David Avanesyan. So what Rick Mirrigan, it's a conspiracy theory. It could make a lot of sense. It's uncorroborated. Some investor comes in, puts up the money. They're going to lose money clearly because if Bud Crawford is telling the truth or Mike Coppinger is telling the truth about Bud Crawford getting paid 7 or 8 figures, you're looking at least $10 million. I would say it wouldn't be any more than that. $10 million to fight a guy like David Avanesyan, who's relatively unknown, who's a straight stud out there in Europe, but relatively unknown here. You're going to have to get some outside investors. That person is going to have to bite the bullet because they're going to look at the financials before they invest in this fight. They're going to know they're going to lose. Maybe on the back end, they're going to hope to get a deal on getting a Spence versus Crawford fight in the first quarter, maybe the second quarter of next year. I've given up all hope of Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence. I don't know who's ducking who. I don't care. I don't use the word duck. It's never that simple. For the sake of my peace of mind, I just got to give up on that fight. Who knows? I'm lying to myself. As soon as any optimistic news comes forward about that fight, I'm sure I'll be all over it like a pit bull on a chew toy. But maybe Rick Mirrigan is telling the truth. Some investor put up the money for the 8 figures that Terrence Bud Crawford is supposedly going to make. I don't know. I don't know what the angle is. When push comes to shove, just know that when it comes to Hot Boxing Minute, your boy Jeff, my perspective is that everyone on Bud's side is guilty and everyone on Errol Spence's side is just as guilty for this fight not going down. And boxing gets a black eye and a scarlet letter because of it. So if you're a boxing fan and you're watching this, my condolences. Your loss is my loss. Share my pain. Group hug, y'all. Group hug. Shit's whack. Anyways, that's the latest news in the boxing world. Bud Crawford, he's going to be fighting David Avanesyan on December 10th out there in Omaha, Nebraska on the streaming site BLK Prime for $39.95. Absurd. Anyways, this is Hot Boxing Minute, the future of boxing analysis on YouTube and TikTok. Peace.